Bye bye, little Bastion. Miss you in the saddest fashion. Bye bye, little Sebastian. You're 5,000 candles in the wind. Hello. Welcome to Comic Book Herald Live. Hey, everybody. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. You're joining on Thursday, May 9th. This is the X-Men 97 reaction special. This is talking about the comics came out this week, including X-Men Forever #3. We also got some interviews coming up. We got some cool guests coming up. Got lots of good stuff here to talk about. We're going to talk about the free Comic Book Day X-Men Teases. Came out this past weekend. Hope you all got to enjoy free Comic Book Day. Get your questions in. Get your thoughts in. Challenge for today. Your challenge for today. All right. Thanks to those of you who were able to join me live last Friday for my interview with Andre Lima Orejo, talking Phenomena and their work on Giant Generator with Rick Remender. New comics coming out soon. It was going to be a tag team interview with Orejo and Bendis, who he's worked on, Brian Michael Bendis. Bendis was not able to make it. I do not fault him even a little bit. There was some really weird scheduling stuff that happened, but we're gonna try again. We're gonna try again, and I've got Bendis scheduled for an interview tomorrow. So your challenge for today: got any questions for Brian? Get him in here. If they're good, I'll copy them down. I'll give you credit, and I'll ask him. That's going to be a live streamed interview here on the YouTube channel. That's already set up. So if you like CBH, like the channel, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff helps me out a great deal. But come hang out with us tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to have Brian Michael Bendis here on the YouTube stream. We're going to talk comics, talk Masterpiece, talk Phenomena, talk their career. I got questions about Civil War 2006 because that's what we're covering on My Marvelous Year, the podcast where we go through the history of Marvel Comics from its origins to today, a.k.a. the best Marvel Comics reading club out there, a.k.a. Is there a better Marvel Comics podcast? I doubt it. I've certainly never heard one that's better than My Marvelous Year. I would love to hear from you. Is there a Marvel Comics podcast that even rivals My Marvelous Year? Right? Even a contender to the throne. You know, it's just kind of lonely up here sometimes. Right? I just get a little lonely is all. So that's going down tomorrow. The following week, I'm going to be joined by Rob from Comics Explained talking X-Men 97 post-game show. After the series finale drops, we're doing a post-game show here on the channel live. My huge audience, Rob's handful. Listen, they're really good, like a handful of really good fans. They're going to join us here talking X-Men 97. You know, it occurred to me recently that if I was good at playing this game, right? If I was good at building an audience and really, you know, pushing for YouTube fame and fortune, probably would have hit X-Men 97 a little bit harder. Probably would have, I don't know, made some videos about it, would have marketed myself as the X-Men expert and said, oh, here's the next big thing in X-Men. It's not the comics anymore. It's definitely this animated series that everyone and their mother is talking about. Like, I don't know, that could have been a play. So obviously, what I'm going to do is we're gonna do this post-game show with Rob. That'll be fun. And then I'm going to drop like a month from now. I'm gonna be like, you know what? I should do an X-Men 97 reading order, and that's when it'll go up. Like well after all the hype has died down, well after everyone has moved on to the next thing. That's when you'll see me step in and be like, it's my time. It's my time to shine. And that's when I'll drop the best video on the subject matter that anyone out there even has, right? Justin Rowley says Dave Stinney dropped the ball on that one. Dave Stinney has the ball right where I want it. Okay, Dave, listen, I've got the MJ pump fake. My ball is My ball is on that hand, and my hand is on that ball. Okay? No, that's not a slip of the tongue. You wish it was a slip of the tongue, right? I'm pump faking that ball over your head. You're turning around looking at the hoop. I still have the ball. I'm still in control. I'm going to get exactly the look I want. Okay? There's no dropping of the ball here. Listen, I'll tell you what. There was a time in my life, a handful of years ago, where like blowing up to people always come in and like one of the most consistent comments on the Comic Herald YouTube channel is like, I can't believe you're not bigger. And they're talking about like my muscles, obviously, but they're also talking about subscribers. And what they say, like, but people have been saying that since I had like 200 subscribers. Like no matter what that number is. And here's the thing. I like where I'm at. Genuinely. Like genuinely, I like where I'm at. You know what? Listen, all right, I'll brag about it. At C2E2, 3 people came up to me who recognized me. And they were like, I watch your YouTube. I like it. 1 person asked for my autograph. So I had 4 people at Chicago Comic-Con who were like, I like your stuff. Let's talk comics for a second. And it was great every single time. I don't want any more than that. For like that was pushing it, right? Like that already was like, I think we're like 2 over my limit. But everybody was super nice, so it was cool. But like that's for me, that's like exactly where I want to be. I get to do this, have fun with it. It is mildly sustainable or additive in terms of like there's at least enough from the whole Comic Book Herald dynasty here trickling in that it's not like a massive like money suck. Right? Anyway, long story short, I'm good. I'm good, y'all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining Comic Book Herald Live. Really appreciate you being here listening. I do actually have some video making thoughts that I want to throw out there to y'all here in a second. Before we get there, how about we start with the comics? How about we start with X-Men Free Comic Book Day? Free Comic Book Day this last Saturday. It's a great time. Got to take my boys to the comic shop. Got some free comics. A lot of good Investigators was real popular here with the all ages readers in this house, the young readers in this house. We had some Pokemon comics. That's going to be a hit, obviously. I was most jazzed about Junie Ba action on Ninja Turtles and Dennis Camp, Juan Frigeri on Ultimates. I think that was a nice little tease for Ultimates. Still very excited about that series. I think it has a chance to be my favorite of the Ultimate Universe line, which obviously, as I have been talking about, is, those are the Marvel comics that I am interested in and excited about at this point in my life. There was also, right, the big tease for X-Men From the Ashes. It was written by Gail Simone. I think, was it David Marquez on the art? I think it was. And it's a Jubilee story. It's post Krakoa. It's just kind of setting up what the landscape is. I think the From the Ashes era, right? The post Krakoa era. We can kind of stop deluding ourselves into like maybe it won't be what we think it's going to be. Like the Bears are who we thought they were. Classic Dennis Green reference from 2007. These comics are who we thought they were, right? I don't think we're in for any significant surprise. I think, listen, if you want to keep enjoying your X-Men, I have no interest in taking that away from you. But it's not going to be as like, it's not going to have the vision or any sort of key differentiator that Krakoa brought to the table. Okay. So at its worst, it's going to be extreme 90s nostalgia, all the things that I was worried X-Men 97 was going to be, that it has kind of fought against. At its best, it's going to be really talented creators like Jed MacKay and Gail Simone and Eve Ewing writing some good stories with characters that you've loved for a long time. But it is never going to be visionary or exceptional or particularly memorable in the grand canon and X-Men tapestry. It's just not. Sometimes you just need to fill up on X-Men. Sometimes I just want to watch the Bulls finish in 9th and go to the playing game. Oh wait, that's every season, right? And I get that on a fandom level. That free comic book day special. Listen, I like Gail Simone a lot. This is not a Gail Simone hater channel. There's a lot of weirdness around that in like comic circles. That is not where I come from. Birds of Prey, fantastic. Secret Six, my favorite. Clean Room, Vertigo series, really interesting book. Okay, opening with the Bible verses about let's put childish things away. Oh, oh no, oh no. Listen, I can't sit here and pretend that I have the chops of Simone or that I have the editorial guidance of Tom Brevoort and their years of experience. But had they asked, I'd have said, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. That is a bad look. It just like it felt hacky. It did. The story itself is fine. It's a Jubilee protects a mutant, gets the racist stuff shouted at her, goes to a diner. Just very old fashioned. Very old fashioned kind of stuff. It did nothing to sell me on the future, which I didn't think it would. I didn't really even hope for that. But it did just help me sort of solidify where I already was, which was I'm good. I don't need to read these. If at some point the general feedback is like, Mark Russell's X Factor is just an incredible parody of government, like I'll dig in, right? I'll Marvel Unlimited it. All of these are like I will check it out on Marvel Unlimited if it's getting really good buzz type books. Or like in like the case of McKay, I'll be like, yeah, like everything he does at Marvel is good. I will read that on Marvel Unlimited at some point. You know? But like otherwise I'm good. You know? And like listen, I wish everyone involved well. Genuinely. I'm not rooting for this to fail. I don't have like residual anger. Like like I've divested myself of this, Krakoa era of X-Men long enough ago, and it's easy enough for me to move on. And like I say every single podcast, anytime we talk about this, I'm not gonna run out of comics to read. I'm not gonna run out of comics that I'm excited about. We got Tax Time coming up later today. We're gonna rank some great comics on Comic Book Herald's best comics of all time list. Like, listen, having enough stuff to read, that ain't the problem. That ain't the problem. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious. Like, what did folks think? Are y'all excited about this next era? They've been dropping more creator reveals lately. So, like I said, X Factor is going to be written by Mark Russell, which is I didn't have that on my bingo card. That's actually a name that is outside of the like rotating, reheated sort of Marvel pen. I think that's a good fit. When Russell did stuff with DC, like Prez and Flintstones, it was very interesting. I think Russell's he's kind of pigeonholed himself with the work he's been doing, like Billionaire Island and stuff on these Ahoy books. Like it's like, oh, he's the parody guy and he satirizes things. Um, I'd like to see him find a mode beyond that, but he's really good at what he does. And has written some really nice comics over the years. So I think that's a nice pull. Solid and Ahmed and Martin Kokolo, apologies for definitely mispronouncing that, are going to be on Wolverine. Hey, shouts to our guy, Greg Capullo. Shouts to Greg Capullo for faking everybody out of the gym. I was talking about pulling the MJ ball fake at the top of this episode. Oh, man, out of our shoes. Everybody's like, oh, he dropped the Wolverine art. We know Greg's on Wolverine. He's not. He's not even on it. like what a fake out. Well done. Well done. Not even involved in this Wolverine run. Am I excited about that lineup? I guess I'm kind of just confused on it. I'm confused in the sense of like Martin was on Immortal Thor, which kind of seemed like a pretty important book for Marvel. So you're pulling him off to put him on Wolverine. Like if that's what they want to do, like go get it, right? Take the job you want. Ahmed, I would like to see Solid and Ahmed drop. One of these two runs has to be great. Daredevil or Wolverine. Like, one of these two needs to be really good, I think, for me to hold Ahmed up as a creator, that I'm like, oh, when they do something, it's awesome. Because I've been, at least mentally, I've been sort of like holding Ahmed up to a standard that was on Black Bolt, where I was like, this book is so good, I think I might read anything Solid and Ahmed does. But now I'm kind of like, was that just Christian Ward talking? Like, did I like that just because Christian, like, because of the collaboration between Ahmed and Ward specifically? Because Christian Ward's incredible. That book looks unlike anything else, and obviously Ward's gone on to do amazing stuff. I'd like, if Ahmed can pull off a Daredevil or Wolverine, I'm back in. But I need to see it. I need to see it first. I feel like we haven't seen it in a minute. So no, I can't pretend that Wolverine announcement for me was like a must grab or anything. Closer to Black Bolt it would have been, but like, Black Bolt's been done for 7 years now. So am I excited about any of these runs? Like I said, no, not especially. But that's less to do with individual creators. It's less to do with even the stuff they're announcing, and more to do with just like, what is the overall vision of this? And the overall vision of this is very much just literally Marvel editorial determining how to sell X-Men. Right? Like, there's no curtain on this. So anyway, that's where I'm at with the From the Ashes era. I mean, I definitely won't be covering it with any particular detail. But I am curious if anybody's like super hyped about it. Let's see. Hawkeye says about the Free Comic Day issue, I thought it was mostly devoid of creativity, and if representative of the upcoming era, it's going to be even worse than expected. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't push me to think like, oh, this is worse than I thought. It just was what I thought, which was something I was already out on. Yeah. Justin says, I expect the era to be divisive at worst. I don't know. Like, I don't know that it's going to be that divisive. I think like the Krakoa crowd is already like the ending of Krakoa has been so kind of harsh. And I just think it's been so obvious that Marvel, like, financially, in terms of like upper management decisions, was like, get out of this. Like, so obviously. And anytime you can feel that, and you can feel deadline crunch, you can feel things being rushed, you can feel lack of investment in artists and in talent and in people who make comics. When you can feel that in the books, that's the worst time to be a fan or a reader of Big Two stuff, right? Like, that behind the scenes stuff, you don't want to know about that until years later. Like, you don't want to know about that stuff until decades later, and you're like, oh wow, things were pretty weird then at Marvel. But hey, I enjoyed Age of Apocalypse. That was a nice time. Clone Saga had some moments I didn't need to know. But I feel like with this era, it's like, we know. It's only a matter of time. But like, listen, no one's talking because they're respectful professionals, but it's like, it's only a matter of time before this gets out there. Somebody's going to talk eventually. I mean, and listen, that ties into X-Men Forever #3. I think in a lot of ways. Where it's like, talk about a book that didn't have the time. And I've been on the fence in terms of like, well, this era needed to end. Could the creators really have been that surprised? Could the creators really have been that surprised that the ending was coming? And it's like, how much is saying like, oh, they're rushed and they didn't get enough time? How much of that is a cop-out for the actual creators involved, right? And then you look at like Rise of Powers of X and how much better it is than Fall of the House of X. And it's like, well, presumably they're facing the same deadline pressures. So how is one of those like starting off really well and the other one's just an absolute garbage fire? But now it's like, it's just kind of sad. It's like it's just kind of it's really sad like how like X-Men Forever number 3 Gillen is trying to cram in like 5 unresolved plot threads into 22 pages, and like he pulls it off, which is incredible. But it's like I wrote earlier, it's like watching him. Okay, my metaphor was a little flawed. It was a little misleading, so I'm gonna fix it. Okay, it's like he walked in, he was prepared for a test, and he walks into the room and he's got all his notes and he's ready to go. He's studied like crazy, and he sits down and he pulls out his number 2 pencil, and then the proctor's like, "You have 15 minutes to take this exam." He was planning on 2 hours. That's what this book feels like. And then he still aces it. Right? He still aces it, but like, yeah, you can tell it was written in a hurry. You can tell he's moving fast. That's what X-Men Forever number 3 feels like. Here are all the things that happen in X-Men Forever number 3 as far as like big beats go. Okay. Krakoa lets Doug free. Doug has been sealed in a warm little buddy belly for months since Immortal X-Men. There was a big moment where Krakoa was like, "The fall is coming. Get in my buddy belly." And he's been hiding Doug safely there for months. And finally, and then we thought Doug was out in Rise of the Powers, and then it turned out that was a Sinister clone of Doug. And then he lets him out, and it's worse than ever. And it makes for a funny beat in terms of Doug being like, "How are things going?" And Krakoa's like, "Bad." There's a huge war going on with Sentinels and whatever the hell happened in Fall of the House of X. But like, it's also like, what was the plan here? Why did Krakoa take Doug into his belly in the first place? Right? It has one of two ways of interpreting. It feels like there was no plan there, or there was simply not time to execute what should have happened. Because Doug just comes out of the buddy belly, and now he's just back. We just had to get him out. But it's like, surely we put him there for purpose. Surely there was something in mind for this key player of this era. I mean, to say that's underwhelming is an understatement, you know? So I didn't understand that. That to me just felt like, all right, we got to just address him getting out of the buddy belly, and we just do not have the space to do anything with that. Which, like, I think there's a lot of theories, a lot of really good theories, that probably some of Hickman's early planning had Doug as like a super key player, possibly even like ascending to Dominion level Doug. Remember the giant size X-Men beat where Doug like discovered a world within the world? Yeah, that's just gone. That's just gone. That seed never got planted. Right? Like, oh man, there's so much stuff like that. So much stuff like that. And then he's just back. And it's like, okay, let's move on. The next thing that happens in this issue, Mystique, Destiny, Nightcrawler reunion after Nightcrawler finds out that Mystique and Destiny are his parents. This was good. This was nice. There were some touching moments. There were some funny moments. Nightcrawler bursting through a portal with a, mutter. And then Mystique with the curse word, with the mother effer at Destiny. I love Mystique's anger. I love Destiny's attempts to fix it while simultaneously making the same mistakes all over again. I'm very much looking forward to the wedding special that I know Gillen is writing for these characters. Although there being a wedding special makes you think like, well, there's a lot of challenges here in this relationship. Like, is this flashback? Is this new? How's that going to get played out? It feels like there's not time for that. But I do like the general dynamic of it. And you know what? Like I said, like there's not a lot of time here. There's not a lot of space. Gillen finds the right amount of space for this, and to give it some attention, which I do appreciate. Okay. Elsewhere, we got Hope and her Legion gun are going Phoenix hunting. Can anyone explain to me why Legion is a gun now? I I would love just a short little blurb that I will happily read here to the group. Why is Legion a gun now? Well, he was a sword for a second. Why is he also a gun now? I thought Legion was like MIA. Now he's an Omega level gun that Hope carries around Hope Summers while she's hunting Phoenix. And then the big stinger at the end of this is so Enigma is worried about Hope and about this Phoenix hunting. So Enigma goes back to before Hope is born. I think before Hope is even conceived. It seemingly goes to Hope's mom, who I don't know that we have we met Hope's parents before? It's been a long time since I read Messiah Complex. I kind of have her as like an immaculate conception in my head. Or maybe just everyone in that town died. But then, so we get a look at, I think for the first time, Enigma in sinister form. So we have Enigma actually taking his sinister form, like as a person, as a whatever sinister is, some kind of humanoid, and he's there, sort of teasing to conceive Hope Summers, but surely just to have a role. Could this be his undoing? His attempt to take human form and take Hope Summers off the board, could that actually be where he falls apart? Is how I interpreted that. Okay, so those are the big moments in a 22-page comic book. Let's see. Xavier says Legion hid with Nightcrawler as a sword, so why not a gun? Yeah, I'm not hung up on the type of weapon. That's not my issue. I remember Legion as a man with a very tall, full head of hair. And how's he a weapon now? Banksy, he can take any shape apparently, and Hope likes gun more than swords. Yeah? Okay. Travis says, no, we did not learn the mom's name around that time for Messiah Complex. Okay, so maybe we've never touched it. So this is Gillen taking one final pass at how can I make everything in X-Men sinister. You thought he was done after Sins of Sinister. Here is one final swipe at, oh, by the way, he made Hope Summers and the whole like post-decimation regeneration of mutants. We can credit Enigma Sinister with that. Feels like that's happening as well. They have not done as they didn't do the popular theory of Sinister was the doctor who gave Moira her powers, which I actually kind of appreciate the restraint. Like once that one floated out into fandom ether, I kind of didn't actually want to see it in the book. Plus, we were so sinistered out at that point that like I'm kind of glad it didn't happen. But listen, people are like too much sinister, and then Gillen's like, oh yeah, here's one more. Let's do this. All right. I think that's what happened in X-Men Forever. Again, like I think if you're like kind of in and out of this era, this issue is probably confusing as hell. As somebody who's obviously spent way too much time thinking about it and talking about it, it mostly works, but it absolutely feels like we are just piling things into a very rushed finish. Oh, I did it. Yeah, I'm getting some comments here. I did include two Apocalypse in the images today. This is a Mike Del Mundo design, little mashup radio of Apocalypse and Tupac. I shared that on his Instagram a while back. Thought I should probably include it here for y'all because it's pretty fun. All right, getting your questions, getting your thoughts. The Krakoa era somehow is not over yet. So next week I'm doing the X-Men 97 postgame show. Then 2 weeks from then, the end of May, the very end of May, we're going to do a Krakoa era postgame show. That's going to be myself, Blurred Without Fear, aka Ernie, and Open Mike Eagle. We're going to do the Krakoa postgame at the end of May. We're going to catch up on how it all ended. We're going to talk about how we think it went down. And, we'll just kind of talk memories of the era and a little bit what comes next. I know Ernie's way more positive about what comes next than I am, so that'll be a nice counterbalance. But that should be fun. That should be fun. Yeah, I don't. Is it going to be somber? Like, is it like a funeral? Is it a eulogy for Krakoa? Is it a celebration of life? Um, that's going to be tough. Lewis Beats asks, will you do taxes with Rob or even better with Brian Michael Bendis? I should do taxes with Bendis about his books. I, how insane would that be? Because I've read some new Bendis stuff in preparation for this interview. I read Fortune and Glory for the first time. I read Masterpiece, which is not even done yet. The fifth issue just came out this week. That one's with Alex Maleev at Dark Horse. It's my favorite of the bunch for a while. At least those two I've got to rank. So, like, man, I could not imagine feeling more uncomfortable than ranking an artist's work while they were watching me on a call. Like, it's a fairly insane thing to do as is, but doing it with them. No, I will not. To do taxes with someone. When I say do taxes, I'm talking about ranking comic books, which we're gonna get to in a minute. Call it doing taxes because it's like watching me do my homework in Excel. Some people seem to love it, to the point that a lot of people have been clamoring. Like, people started getting upset that I haven't done taxes in a while. Like, people seem to. I assumed it was just an extreme indulgence that some of y'all let me get away with. Because it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, leave me like for fewer people? Like, it's impossible. But people have actually been clamoring for more taxes, so we're gonna do that today. We're gonna do it. Will I ever do it with someone? They would have to have read the same comics as me, more or less, right? And that level of coordination is where I've always found it a problem. Um, like, it's not just that it's like my own personal list and I'm ranking it. Like, I would, if there was somebody who I knew had like read a lot of comics in general or some of the same books, I'd be curious about their feedback or things that seem crazy or whatever. Like, Zach calls me on that stuff all the time on My Marvelous Year, right? Like, that's why we're doing Convincible, is because I had Invincible ranked so high in the best comics of all time list, and he's like, that's nuts. Like, that book should not be a top 20 book. And obviously I've ranked things over the years very much based on like how I felt in a moment or how I felt getting into comics, and it doesn't reflect necessarily where I'm at in 2024. It reflected where I was at in 2014. And sometimes that's actually more useful, I think, to a wider variety of people because everybody comes to comics at different points and is on kind of different journeys. So anyway, long story short, I'm not opposed to someone joining me for taxes. I would not start there with a guest that I have not worked with before. That seems like a weird place to start the conversation. But listen, I tell you, the StreamYard thing's been working more or less. So, like, could we open it up to callers in the future and just be like, listen, you hop on, you talk to me about taxes? It feels in play. Seems probably crazy, but it feels in play. All right. Let's see. What other questions do we got? Dave, do you think the Krakoa era is best read without Fall of X? Adam Starr asks, is it more satisfying to have so many plot threads left a mystery or to see how disappointingly so many are resolved? Whew. So, like, the version of this is like, would you actually recommend pretending that this just got axed too soon and then you're left with tantalizing mystery and a what could have been? I don't think you can do that because I maintained throughout the whole thing in Fall of X that Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red were not just worth reading, but were really good. Those are some of my favorite X-Men comics. And they stay really good through Fall of X. I think Fall of X has kind of gotten a little misremembered now. Like, it's because the Fall of the House of X is so bad, and the era is just obviously just, kind of, again, it's just not getting its due. There's kind of a retroactive, like, oh, everything died the second the Fall of X started. And that's a little revisionist history, right? Like, the actual Hellfire Gala Fall of X moment was very compelling and had a lot of folks like, most X-Men readers at that point were like, I want to see what's going to happen here. Like, this is big shift kind of stuff. And then Immortal and X-Men Red stayed hot. They didn't fizzle. So I I don't necessarily recommend that approach if you were like on the fence going into that about keeping up with it, you know, then yeah, maybe you check out there. But no, I think it's hard to recommend that someone actually read. No, I mean, you got to see it through. If you're genuinely invested in theory, you kind of got to see it through and just see it. Like, out of curiosity alone, you're going to want to know. You are. You're going to want to know. Do you need to read every Fall of X book? No, clearly not. Clearly not, but you never did. You know? All right. JJ asks, Dave, what is your opinion on Big Baby getting sentenced to prison for 40 years for insurance fraud? What? Big Baby, the LSU ex-Celtic? The basketball player? Lil Shaq? That Big Baby? I didn't know this happened. What opinions are there to be had on Big Baby? First off, 40 years for insurance fraud sounds flipping insane. How many insurances did you fraud? Oh, JJ corrects themselves. 40 months. Okay, that's me. Even that sounds maybe too harsh. Man, 40 years for insurance fraud. Wowza. Wowza. I have no opinion on the matter. Big Baby led to one of actually the best gambling moment of my life, which was when I was in high school. I picked LSU to go to the finals, and the year that Big Baby and Tyrese Thomas took them there in the NCAA tourney, and I won a lot of cash, like more than a teen. That got me through like my freshman year of college. That cash. All right, enough about that. Enough about that. Get in your final thoughts. Get in your final questions. Let's keep it moving. We got taxes to do. Let's see. Were there any other comics to talk about? You know what? 2 comics that I love this week. Boy Wonder by Junie Ba. It's a Black Label book. I think Junie's fantastic. We're going to talk about Junie here when we rank some comics. Boy Wonder is going to be good. It already is good. Highly recommend picking that one up. I really like the Black Label format. I do. If I'm getting a physical comic, if I'm making the trip and I'm making the investment, and I'm actually holding this thing in my hands, I want it to be that Black Label's prestige kind of book, not this tissue paper that Marvel's publishing on. And The Deviant. I finally started The Deviant by James Tynion IV, and I think it's Joshua Hickson. Holy cow, The Deviant's good. Unholy guacamole. That's a comic. That is a comic. I go in these modes with Tynion where I have moments, like Something is Killing Children, where I'm kind of like, I'm not that into this. I understand it's incredibly popular, but it's fine. And then you get like Tynion's like serious, like adult stuff, like this, like The Deviant. It's like, holy cow, this is why this guy wins all the Eisners. That is good stuff. That is some good stuff. Xavier asked, did we already talk about animation? I guess a little bit up top. I don't know. I'd kind of rather get into comics. Is there that much to say about what happened today? I guess there is. A little bit of spoilers maybe are going to follow here for X-Men 97. I thought this episode, so this is Tolerance's Extinction Part 2. This one started moving a little too fast. I think they got a little bit out in front of themselves on this one, in terms of so quickly pivoting off of Bastion. Bye, bye, little Bastion. And pivoting to their bread and butter, Professor X versus Mags, and going so hard. Like, Professor X has been on Earth for 12 minutes. He returns from Lilandra and the Shi'ar Empire, and he's on Earth for 12 minutes, and everyone is just like swatting his nose, right? Everybody's got a bone to pick. And I didn't totally understand it. I don't know. Like, maybe I just need to, maybe I'm not going to rewatch. What am I talking about? Maybe I'm not paying super close attention. Listen, I'm doing yoga during most of these episodes, right? I'm stretching, I'm flexing. I'm not necessarily looking. Why is everybody so mad at Professor X? Like, everyone is blaming him for everything. He didn't do most of these things. Am I crazy? Like what here was his responsibility? Truly, he did almost die. He didn't, like, Professor X loves faking his own death. You know, nobody loves faking their death harder. Like it's like Tom Sawyer, Professor X, and like Elvis and Tupac, right? Nobody loves faking their own death more than Professor X. Okay, but he did actually get really wounded and had to go to the Shi'ar. You know, and then he comes back, and they're all like, everything's gone to hell. Yeah, like Genosha was destroyed, all his mutants were killed, humans have turned against them. But like, why is Scott and Jean so mad at him? I guess they're like, Scott's like super pissy because he's like, you trusted Magneto with the school, and it's like, but that wasn't the problem. That wasn't an issue. That didn't cause Genosha. You know, as far as Scott knows, at that point in time, Magneto has died in Genosha. Or no, they don't know. I take that back. Okay, no, I'm wrong. They know he's done the EMP blackout at this point, and now they're lashing out like, oh, he's still out there. Now he's mad. And somehow this is Professor X's fault because he bequeathed the school upon him. I don't buy it. Or it's not that I don't buy it. I don't care for it. When your father extends his hand for a handshake, don't just ignore the man. just rude, son. Anyway, I don't know. Like, people love to hate on Professor X. I actually like this version in '97 where he's flawed and he will make mistakes and you can argue it, but they have not just so wholly jumped the shark on Devious Bastard in New York City, right? They just have not jumped the shark on that yet with Professor X. He's a lot more interesting character, I think, in that regard. Here's the other piece of this episode that I'm not down on it. I'm not like negative about it. I think I'm still really impressed by the animation of this. Like the Sinister Jean Grey fight, like they pulled the hell out of that. Like, just, it's exciting. You got Sinister taunting. The show looks great. It's way, and man, it is way more adult than I ever would have anticipated. Just in terms, not that it's like, listen, we're all a little emotionally stunted here watching X-Men '97 in adulthood, but it is not for kiddos. It is not for kiddos, right? So, generally speaking, I'm still very high on what X-Men '97 has done, and it's very much blown away probably my expectations. This episode, I haven't liked the episodes where they start telegraphing and moving so fast towards the comics that they're pulling from. And this one had fatal attractions like just all over it from early on. And probably for folks who haven't read the comics, like, it's all going to feel new. But for me, the whole thing just felt like, oh, we're doing fatal attractions. And then, oh, probably we're going to Onslaught. Like, it felt so obvious the whole time. It was just too heavy-handed in that regard. I would have liked to see this argument play out, and the different factions and the journey Rogue's on, I think, is actually very interesting. In a lot of ways, more interesting than a lot of what Rogue's been allowed to do in Marvel Comics proper, I think. But just like jumping straight to X-Men versus Magneto again, it felt a little too familiar, both because of the comics it's pulling from and just kind of, the stuff that I've liked about X-Men '97 the most is when they are adapting something and I'm still surprised because they adapt it in a way where it's new and unique and exciting. And that's Remember Me, right? That's episode 5. Where it's like you kind of, it's, oh, Genosha, we know the history there, but like it's all done in a unique enough way that it doesn't feel like they're just kind of retracing the steps of the 90s art. And Fatal Attractions was like literally retracing the Magneto Wolverine moment. A lot of folks, I think, are assuming that because Magneto's gonna take the adamantium from Wolverine's bones, and he's been stabbed at this point, and Professor X was like, maybe going to kill him already, that all this is going to lead to a seeming death of Mags and then Onslaught. It's definitely in play. I mean, it's definitely... Okay, so that actually ties into... So I've got a list here. Here's 90s X-Men stuff they've never done. Because there's not that much at this point. Right? Like, there's not... At least, like bigger stuff. Stuff that you'd kind of remember. Legion Quest and Age of Apocalypse. That, to me, is, like, the number one thing I want to see, and also the biggest thing they haven't done, even though they've done For One Man's Worth and, a lot of Apocalypse stuff in the early series. Like, they've never just done the straight-up Age of Apocalypse. So that's in play. I think that feels like maybe if your season 2 is the final season, if there's going to be season 3, like, that to me feels like a final season kind of thing. You've got Apocalypse the 12 at the very end of the decade, start of the new millennium. That probably feeds into your Age of Apocalypse stuff. Maybe kind of build that slowly, do the 12 stuff, then get your Age of Apocalypse. They haven't really leaned into the 90s Peter David X Factor. I feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone there. I mean, any of the X-Men adjacent stuff, Excalibur, X Factor, like, all that stuff really hasn't been tapped to very thoroughly. Executioner's Song is probably the biggest straight-up early 90s event that they really haven't done, even though they do kind of do a little bit here as they mix up giving up Cable in with Inferno. Like, they kind of lump the ending of Executioner's Song and Sinister's role into how quickly they did Inferno. But there's still like all the Strife stuff from Executioner's Song, like, that's still on the table too. And then especially you got a Sinister Cable, we know. Now at this point, you throw some Strife into that mix, that gets confusing as hell. That's going to happen. And then the final thing is the Onslaught saga and the Joseph stuff, which that actually seems the most likely to me that they would focus on coming out of this. I mean, they're certainly setting it up. Although, as you may remember, Fatal Attractions happens, the comics event, in 1993. And Onslaught doesn't really begin in earnest until 1996. So you can plant the seed, and you can still have it be the genesis of Onslaught without going right to it. And I think that'd be a little bit smarter play too, because you want to let that breathe a little bit. But those are the only ones that I can think of that are like 90s, very earliest part of the 2000s. Because, they've gone 2001, E is for Extinction, New X-Men at this point. Right? Like, they've crossed the 2000s border. But I think anything beyond that, like, would they start pulling Messiah Complex? Would they start, like, really reaching across and just saying, no, we're just going to do all of X-Men? Maybe, but it kind of hasn't been the MO to date. Again, like, they're mostly adapting Operation Zero Tolerance, which is actually a 1997 X-Men comics thing. Let's see. Somebody asked if they did Failings Covenant. Yes, they did. They did Failings Covenant, like, as it was coming out in comics. That's actually like when that was coming out in the animated series was like the same time the comic. Like, that's the most, like, closely, like, manga to anime pipeline that X-Men the animated series got, at least as far as I know. Pepto-Bismol says entire season about externals. Sorry, I just need to ban Pepto here real quick. Okay, banned. Let's see what else. Travis says they're doing 3 seasons. Okay. J-Rock says they did the 12 in the 95 series. No? Did they? Those comics hadn't come out yet, but the 12 as a concept had been teased. So I'd be a little surprised by that. Emmanuel says, I think House of M for season 4 and the Messiah trilogy for season 5. Well, I hear from Travis they're doing 3. I think I would prefer 3 and out. That feels like the right length. Voss says, I don't get how they're setting up Onslaught, though. Professor X hasn't lobotomized Magneto. Does he need to? Like, he already was in his head trying to lobotomize him or kill him. And then Wolverine finished the deed, stabbing him through the heart. Unless Magneto's not dead, which would be a twist. I don't think it literally needs to be... Like, do you need the moment of Professor X now lashing out again? They kind of just flip the order of operations. Kyle says, did they make Sinister creating Joseph while he had possession of Mags? Oh, yes. Kyle, you solved it. That's for sure happening. 100%. If there's a weird clone involved and you don't involve Sinister, that's malpractice. Got to do it. Sean says, are we talking X-Men 97? Yeah, Doc. For a while. Let's see. Emmanuel says Apocalypse of 12 and Magneto War. You know, I'm kind of lumping Magneto War into the debut of Genosha. Like, yes, technically that is an event that happens in 1999. But that happens before E is for Extinction. And the fact that we already did our E is for Extinction, I guess you could do a post-genocide, give Magneto keys to Genosha kind of thing. It's in play. We can't rule it out. Justin M says the 12 was technically in X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution is bad, and I don't care. Sorry, I'm getting punchy as it gets late. I've tried X-Men Evolution, I have. And I resent all the little Zoomers who say it's better than the animated series. I'm just going to throw that out there. Maybe one of my worst takes, maybe one of my hottest takes. I'm going to stand by it. Let's see. The 12 was in both X-Men Evolution and X-Men Animation 92, JJ says. Is Apocalypse doing 12 stuff before the comics do it in the animation? I know it's referenced. Like way back, like in the 80s. Like, I think it's in an issue of Power Pack. Franklin Richards is like Nimrod scanning him, and he's like, he's one of the 12. Like, it's teased way back when. But yeah, okay, maybe the animation. Listen, I'm not begging for them to animate the 12. If we want to say it's been done and we can check that off the list, I am good. I am happy with that. Chris says, any other Morrison stories they could do? I mean, yeah, absolutely. They could do Batman R.I.P., Flex Mentalo, Animal Man, Doom Patrol, Nameless, Sea Guy. You could adapt any of those. I'm curious if they would actually push into genuine Morrison X-Men comics. Because the Morrison X-Men is the switch from the 90s to the 2000s. I mean, both literally, yes, but also like tonally, objectively. It is like we are not the 90s anymore. So it kind of is at total odds with the ethos of X-Men 97. Justin says, Evolution is good. The later seasons are way better. I agree that Evolution is a good thing. I'm glad that we can all progress in our nature, in our abilities as societies, and also just in our views of which X-Men animated series are the best. I'm glad we can all evolve positively and accept that it's not X-Men Evolution. Lewis says Goth Rogue is better than any Rogue. No comment. No comment at this time. Did I tell you I met Rogue? I met Rogue at C2E2. Voice of Rogue. If I knew how to use my phone more, I would have the voice of Wolverine as my voicemail right now. But here's the thing. Who is that for? My dentist? You know? I guess I could use it as a podcast intro. That would have made a lot of sense. Damn, didn't think of that. Too bad. All right. Getting your final questions. Getting your final thoughts. I'll continue answering questions as we do a little bit of taxes because y'all were so desperate to rank some comics. we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to finish by ranking some comics. Speaking of Juniba and the Boy Wonder, Black Label comic that y'all should read, we got Mobilis, My Life with Captain Nemo. This is a TKO Studios graphic novel. This one's going to go high on the list. Here's the cover. Junie's awesome. If you don't know Junie stuff, check it out. Monkey Meat, Dajalia, some turtle stuff. Now Robin the Boy Wonder. Really fantastic cartoonist. All right, where is Mobilis going to go? My Life with Captain Nemo. This is one of my favorites of, I guess, last year. But now, I didn't read it until this year. So it's one of my favorites of this year that I've read. This is going to go high. Let's look at the 250 range. Is it better than Squire? That's hard. That's a newer graphic novel by Nadia Shamas and Sarah Alfaghi. I don't know if it's that good. Is it better than Beowulf? Beowulf's awesome. That's a story of Beowulf, but like with kids, written in like poetry by Zach Wienersmith. That one rules. Is Mobilis better than Moebius? The World of Adina? Yeah, probably. I'd rather read Mobilis again. Shots at Moebius. Is it better than Low? I haven't finished Low. Yes. Better than Zero? I haven't finished. Yes. Yes. Okay, so this is the right range. Is it better than Thunderbolts by Warren Ellis and Mike Diodato? Absolutely. We're going to put it right. I think it's better than Ghost Cage, though. That's a 3-issue series by Caleb Gellner and Nick Dragotta that is like a tower fight with all sorts of mechas. But if you know Nick Dragotta stuff from East of West, it's like, what if he just got to draw like the best manga of his life? That's what makes Ghost Cage so cool. Is it better than Demon in a Bottle? I mean, probably. We're going to put it right. We'll put it right behind These Savage Shores. That feels right. Okay. And you know what else we should do? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to duplicate the spreadsheet. Number 1 ranked book, still Watchmen. Number 2, still Sandman. Top 10 has not changed in a long time. Top 15, really. Has not shifted in quite some time. Let's see, what's the newest thing? Building Stories is within the last several years that I read. That's by Chris Ware. That's just like an incredible comics experience. That's one of the newer editions. My Favorite Thing Monsters, the second volume of that comes out this month. Second volume of My Favorite Thing is Monsters comes out this month. I've been on hold for that book at the library for months now, and I'm like 16th in line. Folks are hyped for My Favorite Thing is Monsters Volume 2. I got Volume 1 ranked as my 16th favorite comic of all time. Think about that. All right, let's grab Mobilis. Mobilis, My Life with Captain Nemo. That is going to be the new 253. Okay, who's next? The Sculptor by Scott McCloud. I often talk on here how I don't cry because I'm so manly and tough, except when old wizards die or when Ben and Johnny say goodbye to each other. I have also talked recently how that is changing all the time since I had kids, and I get very emotional now very quickly for anything to do with children. The Sculptor does not have much to do with children, but this book made me cry. I think this is... So Scott McCloud wrote Understanding Comics. Scott McCloud wrote like the comic that has explained to everyone for decades how comics work. Okay? Has also written incredible books like Zot. The Sculptor is a graphic novel about... I mean, basically it's about the value of art. It's about the value of art and just like what is the purpose of an art-filled life. It is so flipping good. This one's going to go high as well. I did not expect... I knew this was going to be good. I did not think it was going to like blow my pants off. That's how, like, my pants went flying out the window. Straight out the window. Okay? This is Scott McCloud's The Sculptor. We're going to have to rank this pretty high. So, all right. Is it better than the area we just talked about? Not a lot of these comics made me cry. Fantastic Four by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. There's a moment in there that made me cry. Okay, so it's purely on the scale of did it make me cry? We're in the right neighborhood. Flex Menelo is confusing. It is very good, but it is very confusing. The sculptor is not necessarily confusing. I think we're in better than the Wildstorm territory, better than Harley Quinn and Breaking Glass. It's definitely better than Doctor Strange the Oath. Is it better than They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, a.k.a. guy from Star Trek, and Sulu. Jeez, that was embarrassing. Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang. It's not better than Berserk. It's not going to go higher than that. It's probably better than the adaptation of Slaughterhouse-5, which is a hell of an adaptation. Oh, man. All right, we're going to put it right behind Berserk. We are going to put it right behind Berserk. You know, I fizzled out at volume 20, I think, on Berserk. I need to hop back in sometime. Although I hear the post posthumous version has also paused. So we're going to put the sculptor in. That's going to be the new 209 on the list. Let's see. Can we do anything higher than 209 tonight? Kind of doubt it. No, it's possible, though. I've read some good comics lately. All right, let's see. Is anybody saying anything in the chat? Let's see if we've got Cool Shirt Kid. Watching My Marvelous Year from episode 1. It's my new favorite podcast. I'm almost done getting through the 80s. Thank you so much. I'm glad you are enjoying the podcast. It is the best Marvel Comics podcast, as firmly established at the start of this episode. But thank you for your support, and thank you for being a fan. I really appreciate it. J-Rock says, is Frank Miller's Daredevil really that good? Like, better than Claremont X-Men? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Unquestionably. It's not especially close. Pepto says, I just finished Berserk. It just released its newest issue last week, but I recommend catching up to where he stopped. It's beautiful as hell. All right. Yeah, listen, I'm going to make time. I've been doing 100 Bullets binge lately as well. I made it through 40 issues of 100 Bullets in my countdown to the top 1,000. I'm going to have to rank that at some point, too. All right, let's do this. Sobek. This is a short box book by James, I don't know how to say that. Stokoi? Stoko. Anybody? Is there anybody out there? The Who, Tommy, 1967. I don't know that you can find this one anymore, but this book is about the coolest alligator god you ever did hear of. And I loved it. I loved this comic so much. So flippin' much. It's like 50 pages. If you don't know James' stuff, what else does he do? Orphan and the Five Deadly Beasts or something like that. I've got another one on here. Orphan and the Five Beasts. And what's this one? Number 457, Godzilla Half-Century War. Incredible artwork. Like truly, like best in class. Like one of my favorite artists kind of stuff. Is this a top 150 book? You know what? You know what we should be looking for? Where do I have Six Gun Gorilla? 127. That's another book that is just like an animal being awesome. It's better than that. It's better than Bedlam. I haven't read enough Lone Wolf and Cub. It's better than Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. It's better than Arkham Asylum. Now it's getting tough. It's better than Next Wave. I don't know that it's better than Pulp by Brubaker and Phillips. Pulp is like a perfect Brubaker and Phillips graphic novel. Like flippin' perfect. I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to put it right above Next Wave. I did not see us getting into almost top 100 territory tonight, but I'm glad that you all get to experience this with me. It's very rare to see a book ranked this high. We're going to put Sobek as the new number 117 on the list. Cousin Marcus says, anything on the list related to restaurants? Definitely, yeah. That's a very specific request. You know, I don't think I've ranked Delicious and Dungeon. I had that. I read the first couple volumes, and it just did not click. I know that one's popular. What about Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley? That's my number 154th ranked book on the list. That's about a restaurant, right? Or is that just like somebody who eats stuff? I don't remember that book very well. Turns out. I think that's about a restaurant. That's the first one that comes to mind. Otherwise, I would have to scan for restaurant-based comics. Did you have something in mind? It's a very specific request. Let's see. Adam Starr says he drew Clobber in time from last year, which was awesome. I think you're thinking of Steve Scroach, who has a similar style. But that's very good, too. That is very good, too. All right. Let's rank a couple more. Oh. Mixed up spreadsheets. Let's do The Power of Dreams by Mohammed Savani, Palestinian cartoonist. This is about living through and surviving jail in Palestine. This book is like an incredible artistic achievement. It looks so damn good. Highly, highly recommend it for anybody who's like using art to try to better understand the Palestinian experience. Power of Dreams, my story is Palestine. This is going to go pretty high. I think we had some, like They Called Us Enemy is another sort of like, tackling a very serious story of racial injustice. I think it's a little better than that. And this is where the ranking type stuff gets super weird too. Because it's like, what's better, the Infinity Gauntlet or this book of serious human struggles? And it's like, these are not the same species. I don't think it's better than The Waiting. Man, I have Manhunter really high. Oh, speaking of Black Bolt, number 201. Solid Anomaly, Christian Ward. Well, I got that high too. Man, we're going to put this ahead of Black Bolt. No, ahead of Manhunter. Ooh, it's ahead of Wolverine. We'll put it right behind The Waiting. That feels right for now. Let's see. That's Power Born of Dreams. That's going to come inside the top 200. I think we could do one more. Do one more. Unterzachen's going to go really high. The Golf's going to go. These are new. The Golf, the Jellyfish. Those are both super new. All right. What do y'all want to see me rank? How about we do a fun one? I've got some Marvels to rank. We could do Marvel Zombies, Civil War, or Young Avengers. Marvel Zombies, Civil War, or Young Avengers. What do you want to see? Get it in the chat. I'm going to take a sip of water. If you want stories about restaurants, just rewatch The Bear. I mean, that's the best restaurant story, right? I like Chef, Jon Favreau's Chef. That was good too. Let's see. We got one vote for The Pervert. That was a really good, really interesting graphic novel. Let's see. We got 2 Civil Wars. We got 2 votes for Civil War. Okay, let's do Civil War. Civil War is not going to go as low as you might hope. Yeah, it's not as, like, my least favorite comics of all time are right here. Ultimates 3, Batman Earth 1, Convergence, Secret Wars 2, Amazing Spider-Man Since Past, DC Genesis, Dazzler the Movie, Avengers 200, Wanted, Nemesis, and then Marvel is the worst comic of all time. Civil War is not on their level. I actually think it's kind of okay. It falls apart by the end, but it doesn't make me mad. I wish it did, but it doesn't. It's not better than Sex Castle. It's not better than Empowered. Let's see. Let's find our neighborhood. probably better. It's better than Jack Kirby's Eternals. I I love the King, but I've got his Eternals at number 943. That is not high. Is it better than Flashpoint? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, but we said it's not better than these already. I think this is where it goes. We'll put it behind Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor's Harley Quinn. The new. Oh, is it better than Batman: The Dark Knight Strikes Again? I actually don't think it is. We'll put it. I think I've definitely read Civil War more than I've read Secret by Jonathan Hickman and Ryan Bodenheim. So we'll put it right there. Ah, toots. He's the wrong one. Toot on a goose. Sorry, using foul language. Where's Civil War? There you are. Okay, that's going to go in at what, in the 800s? No, the 900s. So not high, but not genuine worst contender. We got a few votes for Young Avengers here. Yeah, Civil War is it's a lot more popular than it's not of a quality that it should be as popular as it is, but it is genuinely important in that era of Marvel Comics. And the whole universe really does revolve around it. The credit I will give, first off, McNiven's awesome on that book too. Like that book looks and feels like an event should. It also ends every issue more or less with like some really interesting big Marvel Universe type beats. And there's some bad, like as it progresses, there's some bad stuff that we make fun of in the My Marvel This Year podcast. But like, it doesn't. I don't look at that as like worst of Marvel type stuff. Definitely. All right. What was I gonna do? Oh, well, Young Avengers. I'm not a huge Young Avengers fan. It's very good. I don't think it's top 500 good. It's not better than Dorohedoro. Is it better than Marvel Boy? It's definitely easier to understand. I'm gonna put it right there. That feels right. Young Avengers is gonna come in just below Hack Slash in the plot, just ahead of Marvel Boy in 2120, which is a super weird choose your own adventure comic that I might be the only person who's read. All right, I think that's going to do it for this time on Taxes with Dave. The problem with Taxes is like I need to spend the whole flipping hour doing this to get all these books ranked. And that just feels like a real indulgence. That seems difficult. Oh, let's see. We got Cousin Marcus says hot take. The original was better than Gillen's. I don't know that that's that hot a take. I guess probably with younger readers, but I mean the original is really beloved. What do you got? Jim Chung and Alan Heinberg, the original Young Avengers. I mean that's it. Zach and Charlotte love that on My Marvel This Year. Like that does really well. I think those first 6 issues especially. The Iron Lad stuff and the twist on that, like that's a nice mid 2000s Marvel comic. All right. Is that it? Listen, I gotta say, like the viewers didn't drop. It doesn't drop as much as it should when I start doing ranking Taxes. Like that number should be lower. Definitely, it stays a little too high while I'm ranking these things. Let's see. Is there anything on here that's like gonna blow all your pants off? Nah. Some of these are too new. I don't see any of these as like top 100. You know what? Actually, probably the one that'll bother the most of you will be Nausicaa Valley of the Wind by Miyazaki. I read like the first big volume of that. I don't get it. I don't get the hype. It's not for me. I think Miyazaki's incredible, right? Studio Ghibli stuff's great. But reading Nazca, I was like, I really wanted to get into it. I was like, I'm gonna do the whole thing, read the whole deal, and just nope, was not to be. So like that one, I mean, listen, it's not gonna be like that's gonna go lower than you want it to. I guarantee it. All right, I think that's gonna do it. Thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate you being here. Randall asked, did you finish Dorohedoro? No, I need to read a lot more Dorohedoro, but I did throw a ranking on there because I like the first couple volumes so much. Thanks everybody for being here. Oh yeah, Bendis interview tomorrow. Come join us in the afternoon if you're available. Thanks everybody. Enjoy the comics.